game Papercuts. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Scott, and welcome back to episode 2 of Papercuts, a Deathnote recap podcast. Joining me once again this week is my wonderful co-host, Ollie.
Hello there, my name's Ollie. It's always a good time to be with Scott, hanging out, talking about a show that we love. I partially hate Light. I really hate him.
Man, he took a wild turn in this series of episodes.
So, can I cite an example? Like, I just want to draw a picture on how much I kind of hate this guy. You know, if I was in a room, let's say Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees, and then Light was there. If I have like 2 bullets, which can kill Jason and Freddy miraculously for some odd reason, I would shoot Light twice.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that is.
Yeah. He made Jason and Freddy look good.
Wow.
He's a D-bag. I'd shoot him twice.
Wow. Okay. Wow, that's a lot. Wow. Okay. For sure. We are going to also, if you're watching the video of this show, this episode does cover suicide, does cover a very sad death at some point in the series. If you don't think you can handle listening to that, completely understand. If you're watching the video, there'll be timestamps in the description for when this conversation is going to be happening. Unfortunately, I haven't figured out how to do that on the podcast side. So if you're not comfortable with that and you need to skip the episode, 100% understand. We'll catch you in the next one.
In the future, we might be able to put some timestamps, like skipping that specific content. So if you want to enjoy the rest of the show, just omitting that part, we'll be more than happy to do that for you. We want to be available for everybody.
Absolutely. And you know what's great about this show specifically is that it really is it's a great show to introduce people to anime, because it's mostly grounded in reality with a little bit of weird, but is shot in a way that like is still exciting and is reticent of what other shows are doing at the time. But this week we are going to be recapping episodes 5 through 8 of Deathnote. So let's just get right into it. Episode 5, Tactics. The OP is still a bop. I'm still not skipping the entrances to any of these episodes. I've watched it every single time, and it's been fantastic every time. Don't skip the OP. It is fantastic.
Just rock out.
Just rock out. It's great. So we open up on the direct aftermath of Light's plan to figure out who was following him. The man's name was Ray Pember. He's an FBI agent. And Ray asks Light, and this is really interesting, that Ray asks Light to keep the fact that he is an FBI agent working in Japan a secret before he runs off. Because obviously the police don't like the FBI for, reasons of stepping on toes, and you know how cops can be sometimes, and it could lead to an international incident. So now that Ray no longer suspects Light, he runs off. So Ray, turns out, has a fiance who's waiting for him, but like when they get back to his hotel, and already based on the situation that he tells her, she's like, no, something's up. There's something more to this story. And she's like crack whip smart. And seeing what she does later is fantastic. Incredible detective work on her part. Turns out she is also a former FBI agent. But weirdly enough, she gave up the gig so that she could be with Ray, as if he was or she was his superior at some point, or she was his superior at one point. And then this guy, turns around and says, well, you'll be great. You'll be much better as a mother. What
People
a
might people
dick.
might take it. You know, people might take it in different ways, right? Maybe like
Oh,
you can't. It can sound like that, but then again, maybe what maybe he wants her to be safe. Let's say both of them are field agents. The risk of them both
look,
kicking
look,
the
there
bucket.
might there might be a safety aspect of it in it, but
Yeah, yeah.
it's just shisty when she demonstrates nearly immediately, like very soon, that she is a better investigator than he is.
It is. And there's going to be proof in a later episode that will like solidify that statement.
Devastating, absolutely devastating.
Hmm.
So Light decides to throw the police by just waiting about a week to kill Ray Pember, realizing that if he killed him right away, it would just it would blow his
Well,
cover
obvious.
completely.
Hmm.
And so to mess with him, Kira starts playing with L's by having criminals write, "Do you know gods of death?" before they die, in like big letters in their blood on the wall. Do you know gods of death?
Mm.
And
On that
L's
note,
like, that's weird, but
it
like,
is.
what do
So
gods of
what
death have to
happened?
do with anything?
Yeah. So what happened was Light was messing around with the notebook, right? Because he did see the part that you can instruct a person within a certain amount of time that they can do like actions. So he wants to understand, okay, I'm going to ask this guy to draw this before he dies, and then this guy to write this before he dies, and then this guy to do this before he dies. So it's going to be revealed on a later episode. So they saw like three inmates that died that did specifically what Light told them. But there's another twist to that.
Of
And we're
course.
going to find that out in a later episode.
Right. So a few days later, and this scene is iconic. The way that this whole sequence plays out. So a few days later, Light sneaks up on Ray at the train station to begin his assault. Tells him immediately that if he turns around, he's dead.
Yeah.
And how do I know this? Because I'm Kira. Proves it by
Oh,
killing a nearby worker who is
yeah.
then shown and told to us to be a former sex offender
Yeah.
and a known rapist.
Yeah. So,
Which like okay, and at first when he dies, you're like, whoa, he just killed an innocent person.
yeah, yeah.
Turns out he's not so innocent that
You
we
know,
know of, as far as we know.
yeah. No, tell me this. I just find it weird how he managed to sneak up on an FBI agent.
Yeah, again, I think it goes back to the fact that Ray Pember may not be a very good FBI agent.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not sure if I have the right impression of these guys, like the FBI, CIA, or KG, but like, the spy dudes. How how do you sneak up on those guys? They're the sneaky ones, man. How do you like? I don't know,
I don't know
man.
what to tell you. We're gonna
Anime,
talk about some convenience later
yeah,
on in the show.
yeah,
So he threatens Ray's family and loved ones, which in this case is kind of a bluff because he doesn't actually have that info.
oh,
But again, Ray wouldn't know that Kira wouldn't have that info.
yeah,
And so he immediately mentions he's like, oh, my fiance. And like, it's like, oh, you've got a fiance. Well, she's dead if you turn around. Do what I say, or she dies.
it, it's wordplay. I mean,
Oh, it's
Light
so
is
good.
Light is smart. He got that info out of him and used it against
That's
him. Like, let's go. Like,
yep. That's kind of his whole deal. And so Light wants all of the files of the FBI agents in Japan, but when Ray doesn't have them on his laptop, which was the other thing, he's like, "Hey, you've got a laptop. Give me all the files. Send them to this address." He's like, "Oh, I don't have the files." He's like, "Okay, fine. Take this envelope."
accept
And
the instructions.
opens it up, There's an earphone in it that's connected to a walkie-talkie, and he's instructed to remove the sheet of paper, and in one of the cutouts of the paper, write the director of his superior officer.
You know,
Once that,
let me
once he, go ahead.
let. Sorry. Let's draw a picture. You know those check sheets that's the school uses to put it on? So it's like that. It's like a cutout and then like a slot. So he doesn't touch the actual Death Note.
No,
I
he
was like,
does
ooh,
not.
yeah. I was
So
like, ooh.
he writes. So he writes his superior's officer's name on the top sheet, uh, and then immediately gets an email from his superior officer with all of the names and faces of all of the FBI officers currently working in Japan, which he is then instructed to write in the remaining slots.
Not
When
only
that's
that,
done, what else happened?
faces were included. Then the faces were included.
Yeah. So when
So
he wrote the names, he had the
yeah,
faces in mind.
he had the faces at the same time. So he has everything he needs. Well, he
Mm-hmm.
doesn't know that's what he needs. He's just jotting it down, man. Like,
Yep.
oof, oof.
So when that's done, remember, Light is nearby. He's like in the next car over, instructing him and watching him. And before he sat down on the train, he instructed Ray to say, like, if you, like, don't look around. If you make a scene, you're dead. If you draw any attention to yourself, you're dead. If you do anything that is considered, that I consider to be threatening, you're dead. Do what I say, or you die. Once that's done, he's instructed to leave the envelope on the train and exit.
On
He
the top
clenches his
rail.
chest and falls down as he exits the train. Light reveals himself to be Kira to Ray as he dies in front of him.
As the door is closing, that smug face. Oh,
Turns out, and this is what we just sort of touched on a little bit, turns out that Ray was writing in the Death Note as the pages that he was writing on were slipped into paper envelopes with the cutouts that were written in. Meaning that at this point, soon around this time, Light has also realized that he can write the time of death and circumstances surrounding the death before writing the name.
mm.
And so this is a perfect showing of that. So he does that. And that happens. And that's sort of when we learn that all this happens. So Ray Pember was the one to kill all of the agents in Japan, and Kira just kind of set him up for it.
Yeah.
The FBI,
Oh,
or I think it's the president, calls L.
no.
What's up?
Did we mention that the Japanese police did not know that the FBI was operating in Japan?
If we didn't, now's a great time. At this point,
Yeah.
the Japanese police do not have any idea that the FBI is operating in Japan.
Yeah.
And then a bunch of
So,
agents
yeah.
die. So the director of the FBI, who might be the president of the United States, we don't really know, calls L
Yeah.
and says they're ending their investigation. At this point, we find out that Chief Yagami is not happy with L for involving the FBI. There are new messages left for L in the cells of other criminals. Suicide notes saying, "Love apples." So putting all that together, L, do you know gods of death love apples? Kira wins this round. Dad finally tells the family that he's the head of the Kira task force. And I remember last week you said that Light told his dad that he would avenge him if Kira got to him in the
Yeah.
last episode.
Mm-hmm.
That actually happens here.
Oh,
At that point,
it's
Light says, "Oh, Dad, I'd avenge you if Kira ever got to you, and I'd make sure he gets executed."
yeah. And also, let's add on that the reason why L didn't want the Japanese police to know that FBI was on Japanese soil operating was the purpose of that is Light wants to create internal conflict. So now it's
Yep.
known that the
Yep.
FBI was there. So why is there a third party investigating the Japanese police? Oh, L, you know something about this?
Yep.
What the hell, man?
Yep.
So now
What
there's
the
friction.
L, man?
Yeah. What the L? Why they
Oh,
why they here?
that's
Who
awful.
they?
Um,
Yeah.
so it's known now that Kira will kill anyone who gets too close to him. That's when that
Hmm.
conversation happens. And the chief gives the ultimatum to all of the cops that if they want to leave, their jobs are safe, and to only stay if they're willing to risk their life to find Kira, to find and bring Kira to justice.
Hmm.
Everybody in the task force leaves, with the exception of like 5 guys. L has decided that he now trusts them and decides to show himself. They're invited to a hotel to meet L. And 5 episodes in, we are just getting started.
Oh yeah. Funny enough,
Oh,
funny enough is like there's only a handful of them left. Some of them are like rookies, which is, pretty ballsy.
poor Matsuda.
Oh yeah, dude. Like
Man,
this
he gets
guy,
put through the ringer.
oh man. Oh. You guys should watch the series. Like you would see like, oh guy, you're not paid enough to do this.
Mhm.
You should quit.
Yeah,
Yeah. But then again, it just keep getting better from this point. So
yeah. It
basically
only
that's episode 5.
okay.
Oh, there's one
Oh,
more thing we forgot to mention.
yes. So
So
go
L's
ahead.
headquarter is a hotel room that changes
Yep.
constantly. They don't
Yep.
say like how often. Like for security purposes, they just move around. And for some reason, this guy has a lot of money.
Well, he's the
Like,
best detective in the world. Like agencies hire him from all over the world.
yeah, but like I'm thinking about like, remember Sherlock Holmes? He wasn't that. He was rich, but he wasn't L rich.
Yeah, but
L is like, oh,
Sherlock Holmes was very local to London, and he only worked with Scotland Yard. L
okay,
is like Sherlock Holmes, but
okay. Here's
international.
fair. Here's a good question. Who do you think is richer, 007 or L? From the look of this, L is far way
Well,
wealthier than James
I
Bond, man.
look, I don't know James Bond history. I don't know the story. I don't know much about it. But from what I gather, James Bond has never really shown to have individual wealth.
Correct.
He travels a lot. He's
Yep.
always on a case.
Mm-hmm.
He is often taken very well care of by MI6,
Yep.
but you never really see James Bond, quote unquote, being wealthy
Nope.
independently.
Nope.
And
Oh man, this is a whole different rabbit hole. I'm a sucker for James Bond, man.
okay,
Ooh.
maybe that's a future show. We'll write that down. We're gonna
Oh
put
yeah.
that into the universe. If you want to see or hear a recap show of all of the James Bond movies, let us
Yeah.
know.
No,
And because
here's
I've
something
never
more
seen them.
interesting. You want to know who 006 to 001 is?
Is it all Sherlock Holmes?
No.
Oh,
So here's a little tidbit. Like the double O, the 2 zeros, it's a license.
mm-hmm.
That's their license to kill.
Okay.
So one onwards, that's the number of the agent that exists. Yeah. So I'm gonna leave it at that.
Okay.
It can be 009, and you can kill
Oh,
anyone.
you're saying that, yeah, okay, that there are seven
Right.
people in the world with a license to kill.
But 007 is the only one that's alive.
Huh.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh.
One last thing,
Anyway, yeah.
back to Death Note. One last thing is that Ray's fiance is already on the case and figures out immediately that the person, that the bus jacking was related to Kira,
hmm
and that Kira was obviously the person who killed Ray, and therefore Kira must have been one of the people on the bus. And she figures that out real quick.
Like, she reduced the number of suspects, like, bam, bus size.
100%.
Like,
I
whoa.
Oh man. So this woman is clearly a force to be reckoned with. She is clearly like very, very good at what she does. So we jump right into episode 6. Unraveling. So
This is gonna be fun.
we finally meet Elle in person. Well, the police finally meet Elle in person. And I think they were surprised to find out that Elle's like this weird shut-in hermit dude. Ambiguously aged, which I thought was very interesting. So like the OP and the EP and all of the like they all make it seem like Light and Elle are around the same age. But I think that Light's probably got a good probably 7-8 years on him. Like Elle's an adult. Elle is probably in his mid to late 20s.
You know, I've been thinking about that because, like, L did give some information about his schooling background, but well, who knows if that's true, right?
Right.
But I feel like L is older than Light. I just
Yeah.
have that feeling.
Yeah. I agree. And so he insists that the police call him Ryuzaki from now on. We're going to call him L because we're not police officers. And there's enough names to remember already.
So many.
At this point, L shares with the police that Kira needs a name and a face to kill somebody, whereas the police didn't know this before. So when they show up and they're like, here's our badges, here's who we are, L's just like, bang. If I was Kira, you'd all be dead. And they're just like, oh no. Immediately just clowns on them for it.
Like what? How?
Yeah, right? And so L knows that Kira is very childish and doesn't like to lose. And when they ask him, how do you know that? L's response is, well, because I'm really childish and I don't like to lose. Therefore, this serial killer must be just like me, if he's as smart as he seems to be. So they decide to use, they collectively, the police and L, decide to use the media to their advantage to share a story that in the wake of the FBI massacre, that NATO is going to send 1,500 investigators to Japan to deal with the Kira
case
situation. And obviously these people aren't real. And if Light and Kira if Kira, because they don't know he's Light, if Kira was able to kill all of these people easily, well, maybe he'll have a harder time killing people that aren't real. And so immediately, Light's got to figure out now how to. Oh my god! So this episode and these episodes flip flop a lot between what's happening between people. So we now flip over to Elle also realizing that Kira is working alone, spent the previous number of days experimenting to see how he can kill the FBI agents. And now Light's got to cover his tracks to make sure that no one knew that he was in contact with Ray Pember. Elle hypothesizes that Kira had to be someone that the FBI was investigating. One of the people that the FBI were investigating has to be Kira.
They narrowed that down.
And so both parties admit that there's got to be something that they're missing. That one tiny piece of information could cause the unraveling of either Light's entire plan or the revealing of Light as Kira.
Yep.
And that was a really deceptively cool scene where both parties at the same time realized, oh man, I gotta figure this out. Like, there's one thing I'm missing. I need to figure out what that one thing is, because if I don't, I'm
Done.
sunk.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was really cool.
Yep. It's a they kind of like amp up the game of cat and mouse.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's getting that feel like, okay, I kind of slipped up on something. I don't know exactly what it is, but I feel like I did something wrong.
Right.
I missed something. And then
I
on the
missed
other side,
something.
they're like,
We
hold
are
up,
missing something.
hold
What
up.
are we missing?
We missed something about this guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're both like trying to put fingers on him. What's going on? Something's
And
not right.
it just goes to show both of their intelligence to know that, like, no, there's something missing here. We're missing something. Or and Light saying, no, I'm missing something. What did I miss?
Mm-hmm.
So to that sort of point, Light now takes a piece of the Death Note with him wherever he goes, just in case.
Mm-hmm.
And it really goes to show Light's paranoia.
Oh,
Like
100%.
he's starting to slip.
Yeah. You know, I'm curious. When did he figure out that tearing a piece of the Death Note, like it would still work, even though it's
I
torn from the page, right?
I
I was thinking about that.
Yeah, I don't think that ever really comes up. I think
Yeah.
it's I think it's used as another way to show Light's intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
to think about something like that, to
It's
consider
pretty
that,
interesting.
well, maybe I can just take a page with me. I don't have to take the whole book wherever I go.
Yeah.
Um, so now that Light takes a piece of the Death Note with him wherever he goes, his mom sends him to send some clothes to his dad.
It's,
Okay,
they've been
so
working.
yeah, because he hasn't been home in days. He's been working around the clock. He needs a change of clothes, and it's really nice of his wife to send him
Yeah.
some clothes. So at this point forward, if you don't feel comfortable hearing about or comfortable with conversations about suicide, I absolutely understand if you have to turn off the show or jump ahead to when this conversation is finished.
Yeah.
Because where
We'll
we're
post a
going with,
timestamp.
yeah, we'll put a timestamp, because where we're going with this gets really
Dark.
tragic. It gets dark is a really good way to put it.
Very.
So we set the scene. It's task the task force headquarters. Light shows up with a bag of clothes for his father, and who so happens to be there but Ray Pember's fiance, saying that she has a tip for the task force.
Hmm.
And Light realizes that
Overhears it.
he overhears her tip. That tip being, hey, I believe that Kira can kill in other ways that aren't a heart attack. Because up till now, that's all they've seen him do.
Yeah.
Any other deaths that weren't a heart attack were not blamed on Kira.
Yep.
Light realizes that if the police
Oh.
find this out, he's sunk. This is that one thing. This is that one thing that he didn't think about,
Yeah.
because the bus jacker didn't die of a heart attack,
Remember,
but the
he got.
rest of his events were fishy enough that she linked them to Kira. So because the bus jacker didn't die of a heart attack, she figured it out, essentially. So Light, realizing that he needs to deal with this right away, makes contact
Yeah.
with her, starts empathizing with her. Oh my god, I'm so sorry to hear about your fiance. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. Like, I want to. They start talking.
He was
She
fishing, man.
reveals. What's that?
He was fishing. Light was fishing for
Yeah,
information.
yeah. So she tells her name is Shoko Maki. She reveals everything she knows about Kira which is actually
Oh, boy.
everything except for who Kira is.
Yeah.
When Light questions her more about this, like, oh my god, who are you? How did you know all this? She says, hey, I'm Ray Pember's fiance. So
Boom.
Light confirms all of her theories. But she doesn't know that he was on the bus, nor was he the one that Ray was trailing. Because if she had that information, then he's done, boned, finished.
He got the heebie-jeebies, man. Like, you
And
would see his
so
face like, ooh.
it is a real good thing for Light that he got to her before the police did.
Dude, this
That's
guy's
episode.
lucky.
That's episode 6.
Yeah. See, if he didn't need to bring a set of clothes for his dad, would have never met her. Ever.
And this tragedy would have been averted.
That series would have been like, I don't know, 12 episodes long.
That's true.
10? Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
So episode 7.
Oh, we
Go ahead.
forgot. Like, there was a moment they were talking. One of the task force members was walking by with an umbrella.
That's not yet.
Oh, not
We'll
yet.
get to it. No, we'll get to it. I promise we'll get to it.
Oh, okay. Let's go.
Okay. So episode 7. Overcast. Opening's bop. Opens up to see Light saying, at this point he realizes, I have to kill this woman. I have to get rid of her. Now, this is this is again where we take a turn where Light has seen somebody in person who is easily going to take him down and made the decision to end her life. Out of I guess you could call it self-defense at this point, because if he's ever caught, he's obviously going to get executed.
Yeah.
So Light takes out a piece of paper and writes down her theories, but it's really a Deathnote page. And he writes that she commits suicide in a way that her body is not found. Ryuk starts laughing. Ryuk, if you don't remember, is the Hot Topic Death God that is bound to Light now that he has the Death Note. Last week's episode was a lot of exposition to sort of set all this up. A lot of history. We're moving along at a much better pace this episode. So, Light is waiting for the process to begin because he's basically said, Shoko Maki commits suicide on this day in a way that her body is never found at this time.
Yep.
So he's waiting for the process to start, and it just doesn't happen. He gets confused, and like, it is hilarious to watch him watch him freak out.
On?
And Ryuk just won't stop laughing, and that's when he realizes, oh my god, she's using an alias. She didn't give me her real name. She just lied to me. This girl's good. Oh my god, I have to figure out her real name. I have to. If she takes what she knows back to the police, I am boned. I can't believe my plan didn't work. I really need to figure this out.
You know, I like the move that Ryuk did in this one.
Wait, what, sorry?
I like the move that Ryuk did.
Yeah, it just starts laughing.
Yeah, and then after that, he was like, hey, bud. Remember those eyes?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And like almost thinks about it for a second before he's like, no, I'm not going to do it. Out of the question. It's not even worth thinking about. Because like he did think about it for a minute anyway. So now we also meet Watari, who's like L's handler / right-hand man / guy. Gopher. He's his guy. And the task force get new fake police badges and are told to use these fake names from now on when they're dealing with people that don't already know them. They also get really cool pager spy belts, where if you tap the buckle twice, they'll immediately get a phone call, which is really cool. Just some cool stuff. But then we come back, and Light is freaking out about how to get her real name. He's losing it. And he decides to lie through his teeth
Yep.
and say that he's in the task force and invites her to join based on her previous association with Elle and the fact that she's figured out so much already.
And you know,
Like,
there's
wow.
a there's a lesson here, bud. I remember when I was my first time working in sales.
Mm-hmm.
So my trainer was like, "Hey, man, it's pretty easy." I'm like, what do you mean? You know what the trick is? What? Bullshit plus confidence equals to sales. I'm like,
Yeah.
really? I
Yep.
was like, and then I saw light. I was like, wow,
Yeah.
this
Wow, that's
guy,
right.
like this guy.
So we learn a lot more about Shoko. We're going to call her Shoko for now. That she worked with Elle on a previous case. So that's her
Hmm.
association to Elle that Light is referring to. We learn that she is a
He
former
good.
FBI. She's real good. Like she
He
helped
good.
Elle crack that case.
Hmm.
Um, and so basically, Light uses that information to try and get her to join. He's going to invite
Hmm.
her to join the task force.
And also, if you guys want to read the light novel, she has more exposure there for the BB murders. So the setting is back in the U.S. There's no
Oh,
manga for it.
cool.
It's a light novel. So
Okay.
that's when Elle was working with Naomi in the U.S.,
Okay.
chasing down the BB murderer. It's pretty
Sweet.
interesting.
So at this point, the task force realizes that there's nobody at the station, that they need to have somebody there to take in tips because, well, that's something that's going to happen. People are going to
Hmm.
want to offer help on the Kira case. So they send somebody back. And as he's walking by Light and this woman, whom we don't actually know her name yet, all you mentioned it, so maybe you spoiled it, but that's okay. So he opens his umbrella as it starts to snow. And unfortunately, because of his umbrella, he doesn't see them in the street. She hands her driver's license over to Light to prove that she is who she says she is in order to join the task force.
Hmm.
At this point, it's game over.
Game set.
Naomi Misora, date of birth February 11th, 1979, dies of suicide January 1st, 2007. Light admits that he is Kira to her as the Deathnote takes hold of her in quite possibly the saddest and most tragic death of the series
Yeah.
yet. I
You know?
remember when I first saw this episode, I
Oh.
was devastated.
You know what makes it worse? Like Light was seeing he even told her like, "Hey, I can get my dad on the phone if you want to talk to him."
And
And
she
like
just
she's
didn't.
gone. She's like,
Yep.
"No, I have something to do." Like her mind is just like set
Her mind is set, or her mind is
on.
controlled by the Death Note.
Yeah, she's set on
But
unlifing herself, and I was like, "Oh, that's sad." Like
yeah,
they were like this. She was like this close, man.
so
Mm.
close. And it just goes to show the savagery that Light is now capable of. When we first met this kid, I didn't think that he was going to go that far with it.
Oh man, the moment he got that notebook, oh,
Oh.
all sense of reason gone. I want to be gouged.
Well, it's not.
You want
It's not even reason. It's sense of like morality.
gone.
That anything now he's in full ends justify the means mode.
Hmm.
That I will protect myself and my belief system at any cost.
This kid.
If you skipped ahead because you didn't want to hear the conversations regarding suicide, welcome back. Hi.
Come back.
Uh, we are moving on to episode 8, Glare.
Yeah.
Now, this episode is
Oh, ho, 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 ho.
we have thoughts
Hmm.
about this episode.
Oh man.
If you okay, so if you um haven't seen this show and you wanted to recommend this show to somebody after listening to our podcast, we hope you're going to be interested in the show. Remember, it's on Netflix. You can watch it anytime. You can show this episode to somebody, and it acts really well as a bottle episode. It
Hmm.
acts really well as a standalone episode, and you're going to see why in a minute. But basically, it shows uh, Light coming up against a situation as Kira,
Mhm.
using what he knows about the Death Note that the police, with information the police don't have, uses his smarts and we'll say intelligence.
Yep.
Intelligence is a loose word for this one, and general bullshittery in order to outsmart the police and throw them off his trail.
Yeah.
So,
You know what, Scott? Let's a good I'm just curious like how you're gonna answer this. Let's say we're gonna sell Death Note. This is the episode that okay, you have to watch this episode. Death Note sold. I'm gonna watch it.
yep, this
What
is the
episode
episode.
would you yeah, what episode would you pick for JoJo? Person doesn't know anything about JoJo.
Um,
One.
oh, that's a tough one.
Yep.
I'm gonna have to get back to you on that.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Like some animes, they should have that one episode. I believe every anime has that one episode.
I think that every anime does have that one episode,
Yeah, it's like the
but
hook.
that
Let's,
one episode is so hard to nail down. I think if
yeah.
I rewatched JoJo's from part 3 forward, because if it's part 2, I think it depends on the part.
Mhm.
If it's part 2, I would say that it's the fight with ACDC on the spikes.
Okay. Okay. I
Okay?
think mine would be like the first time they revealed the stands.
So I
That would
think
be
there's a
mine.
better way. Yeah, yeah, no, that's definitely good.
Hmm.
Um, I think I would also suggest in part 4, the episode where Josuke and Higashikata, no, Okuyasu go to the Italian restaurant.
Yes.
Like that's
Yes.
like it's just so
Yep.
weird. It's so like it's just a really good episode.
Yeah. Also, for the listeners, if you're in the chat, write down one episode from an anime that you want us to watch. We'll give it a shot.
Yeah, oh my god,
Yeah.
if
If
you've
you got
got
something like that,
if you've got episodes from shows that you want to share with us that are like define the whole show and do a good job of like sort of showing what the show is all about, let us know because we love stuff like that. We're all about
yeah,
stuff like that.
we'll watch it.
So, getting back to episode 8 of
Yeah.
Death Note. So the police are watching back. So again, imagine for a moment that you haven't listened to the podcast up to this point. Imagine that you have just turned on your TV on Toonami, and this was the episode of Death Note you stumbled upon. You're in for a treat.
Yep.
So the police are watching back Ray Pember's death, and notice an envelope that he had when he walked on the train that he didn't have when he left
He
or
walked
crawled
out.
out of the train, suggesting
Yeah.
that he must have left it on the train. Elle notices this too. Elle notices that he was trying to crawl back to the train as he died, suggesting that Kira was probably on the train.
You know?
So Light has been writing in the Death Note for the last 4 days, like straight, preparing his kills for the next many weeks, just in case something happened to him, thinking that if suddenly the killing stopped, as Light ended up in the hospital for whatever reason,
Hmm.
that would be a pretty big red flag.
Yeah.
Which again shows his level of like forward thinking, but also kind of paranoia,
It's a thin line, man.
like
Like,
suggesting that he has to keep doing this and he has to put systems into place so that it keeps happening now that it's started, even without him.
it's like it's like there's a method to his madness, dude.
Mm-hmm.
He has that. Also, I'm thinking like I'm surprised that the trains in Japan did not have cameras on them,
Well, I think they showed that they have cameras at all the stations.
but not inside the trains.
I don't know enough about Japan. I've never been. If you've been to Japan and you know, let us know. You can get in touch with me
So,
via my Instagram and Ollie via his Instagram as well,
yeah, yeah,
which
yeah.
we will plug at the end of the show.
I'm pretty sure from where I am, the city I am, the trains have cameras. Mm-hmm. Lots. Uh,
So,
yeah.
a tip comes into the task force that Naomi is missing, and they immediately turn the investigation to families that Ray Pember was investigating. Because it's weird that this incredibly good FBI agent is missing. Well, she's related to Ray Pember, and Ray Pember is dead. Therefore, she's probably dead too, meaning that Kira got to her. Why would Kira get to her? Because he knew that she knew who he was. Therefore,
Yeah.
Ray Pember's investigation subjects
Was
become now the main topic of the
priority.
investigation.
Yeah. And the way Elle reacted, Elle was like, Naomi? He was
Yeah,
like,
she
I
let
work
herself
with
get
her.
she let herself get caught.
Like, no, no,
No,
you can't.
there's something more going on here.
Yeah. I
So,
mean, if anything, let's say, yeah, Naomi, she got unlifed by the Death Note. But then again, look at it this way. If she hadn't died, Elle wouldn't have an idea that, wait a minute. I think we should like focus on
right.
the dudes that Ray Penber tailed.
Yeah.
Because she would probably find out who got her man. Maybe she got
Yep.
too close to the person. Yeah, she didn't die in vain. Let's put it at
No,
that.
absolutely not.
No,
And
she didn't.
that's no, and that's something I think that we need to make absolutely clear is that this woman uh basically figured the whole thing out on her own and was just missing one or two specific pieces.
Yeah,
But unfortunately, due to luck or fate, as Light would have it said, he
he's
got to her
he's a lucky
first.
dude. Lucky dude.
Very lucky.
Ugh.
So, one of those families that Ray Pember was investigating was obviously the Yagami family.
Mm-hmm.
And L has Watari install cameras and wiretaps in the Yagami household, which is a really like big deal
Yeah,
in Japanese
pushback,
society.
man.
In this sort of situation, they suggest that
Especially,
it's a human rights problem.
yeah, it's a
It's a
home.
major.
It's a
Yep.
home. It's somebody's home, and what makes it worse is it's one of your guys' home.
Yep. Which,
Oh,
I mean, it's funny looking back how quaint this idea of being upset about this is when we give our data to big companies all the time.
really? Yes,
Really?
free. Oh God.
um,
Oh, I feel bad
anyway,
now.
anyway, so
Moving forward.
Light comes home to realize that there was clearly somebody in his room. And the level of detail that this is explained with
This kid's
is
crazy.
so
Oh,
minuscule and or
it's
so like granular. So he says, so he's got, just to set up the secure
who does
privacy of
that?
his room, an insane person does that. So he's got,
Okay, stop
okay,
laughing.
so he comes home, he opens the door to his room
Mm,
and
mm.
sees the paper drop, and he goes inside.
No, no,
Immediately,
not
he's like,
even that.
no,
The moment.
immediately, he's like, someone's been in my room. And
Yeah,
then he goes off on a huge mental monologue about how does he know that someone's been in his room?
he's like,
And the way that he knows,
50 things are off. I'm like, you haven't been inside the room, dude.
so the way that he knows that there's been somebody in his room is just insane. So when he closes his door, the handle
Oh,
sits horizontally. But what Light does before he leaves is he pushes it down a little bit.
yeah, he leaves it at an angle.
And so if the door handle moves a bit before it unlatches, he knows that somebody's been in his room.
What?
But wait! He also
There's more.
puts a mechanical pencil lead in the hinge of his door so that if he comes home and the mechanical pencil lead is snapped, someone's been in his room.
And
but wait, there's more.
There's more, man.
And this one is a bit more obvious in that there is a piece of paper that he leaves in his door as well, so that if somebody opens the door, the paper falls out, and when he comes back, he sees the paper, he knows that there's somebody been in his room. And so what's interesting, and this is the sort of tips him off about what's going on in the room, is that the lead is snapped, the handle is straight, and the paper is still in the door. So whoever was in his room knew enough to put the paper back, but not the rest of it.
Yep.
This kid, and just the level of paranoia that goes into this is way more than that of your average 17-year-old kid. So I just thought that's really interesting.
He's crazy, man. He's crazy.
He decides to go for a walk. However, Light realizes this. He realizes this and is ignoring Ryuk, and Ryuk's kind of pissed off at him for it. So Light goes for a walk. And then while he's outside, he checks his clothes, checks his coat, figures there's no bugs in his coat. He's like, "Hey, Ryuk, you should look around my room to see if there's any cameras or bugs in it." And Ryuk's like, "Why would I do that?" And Light's just like, "Well, look, dude, if there is bugs,
you missed one.
What did I miss? Go ahead.
You went to the bookstore to buy some lewd magazines nonchalantly, like a normal 17-year-old would do.
Yep.
I'm gonna buy this.
Yep.
And then walks back home, asks Ryuk.
Walks back home. Yep. And so Ryuk tells him. So he tells Ryuk, "Hey, what do you think it looks like when you eat an apple?" It's like, "Well, it looks like it probably just disappears." If there's,
you can't have that.
Oh no! If there's bugs and cameras in your room, then I can't eat apples. And if I don't eat apples, I'll go through withdrawal symptoms because apples.
It's like cigarettes for
are
you
like
guys.
Cigarettes.
What?
And so it goes into withdrawal symptoms if he can't eat his apples. And so Ryuk crawls through the room while Light is sitting on the bed reading his lewd magazine.
Casually.
much to his father's chagrin, might I add. I can't believe my son would look at something like that. Bro. And I was just like, dude, he's 17. What do you think he does?
I have to bring this up, man. They have the internet. I'm pretty sure Japan has a pretty good internet connection back then, eh?
Yep.
I mean, you know where I'm going. Where I'm going. Why did he even buy a magazine?
Just because again, at this point, it's meant to be staged. He's trying to look normal. But again, he's got a secret stash of these magazines hidden in an encyclopedia.
So I think he's actually an avid reader, eh? He has a few there. He did have a stash there. I totally forgot about that. Oh, it's not his first time buying this stuff.
No, not at all.
Right.
And so that whole thing happens. Ryuk finds all the cameras and stuff, and so he's like, "Okay, yeah, obviously, there's cameras, and I can't eat apples." And Light says, "Okay, great." And that's when he puts the magazine in the thing. There's a buttload of them. There's a buttload of them.
I was like, what?
So we see 3 of them, right? that go in the one box. How do we know that the rest of those boxes are not also nude magazines or lewd
Oh man,
magazines or any other kind of thing that like that? We don't know that now. Now
we don't know that.
I don't trust Light's encyclopedia collection.
Hell no. Man, for all we know, like he has a subscription to that. He's just picking up in a mailbox before anybody else.
That's what I'm starting to think. Based on some
Oh,
of the other things that he does,
oh man.
surreptitiously without anybody knowing. Okay, so
Number of
okay,
cameras, Scott. You have
we
to mention the
almost
number of cameras.
there are 64 cameras in Light's room.
Alone.
Yes. So somehow, oh my God, I'm getting fired up.
How do you
So
put that many
somehow,
cameras in one room?
Watari managed to put 64 cameras in one room of the house. Cameras and bugs in one room of the house, let alone the rest of the house. Which is just, how did he do that in an afternoon?
Plus the bathroom and the toilets.
Plus the bathroom and the toilets.
But there's a deal. Remember the deal?
Only the Chief Yagami will monitor his own house with L.
And yep, which is okay.
All right, it's neither here. That part's really neither here nor there. So during dinner, the message about the 1,500 investigators is played on TV, and Light sees it as a bluff right away. Didn't work, not even a little bit. He's like, they're obviously trying to get me to get Kira to react.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're trying to get Kira to do something stupid. Obviously, it doesn't work. So Light says, I'm going to go study. Goes to the kitchen. Gets a sealed, now they make a point of this, sealed bag of chips.
Let's go.
And if you know where I'm going with this, you're going to know, what's coming. I saw this scene and I'm like, man, I know what's coming. This is going to be great. Gets a sealed bag of chips and heads into his room. Opens the bag of chips. He opens the sealed bag of chips. And you see a glimmer of something inside the chip bag. He sits at his desk. And we find out that this son of a bitch somehow managed, I don't swear on stream very much, so you know I'm serious about this. Somehow he managed to fit a miniature television into a sealed bag of chips that also had a piece of the Deathnote taped to the inside of it. So he could be solving equations with his left hand and writing down a criminal's name with his right. Now, this scene is something that has been super like memed over the years. I think there's another podcast that's named after this one scene, which is I take a Deathnote and read it, because the Light in this bit, he's going off. There's big like orchestra music playing. There's like an opera song soundtrack. He's like
strokes.
He's winning. This is a winning moment for Light, because he is, a criminal whose name is broadcasted on TV is going to die by heart attack.
Yeah.
Light is shown to be simply solving equations and studying for cram school, just as he normally would.
But he's dropping bodies, dude.
But he only kills one guy. That's the thing with the scene.
Well, just one.
And so a criminal dies. The point is, a criminal dies while Light, who is suspected to be Kira, is seen to be studying and having no connection to the news. And that's kind of the whole part of that bit. So that L, whom Light knows is watching him because he knows about the cameras, sees his alibi for this death. Now that's pretty cool.
Man.
L thinks Light and Light's Yagami family is a little bit too innocent. And so the episode ends on a win for Light as he throws out the mini TV with the empty chip bag, thus destroying any evidence.
End of conveniently, the following day was garbage day.
Also that.
What the hell? I'm like,
So this is the episode that if you have a friend or somebody who's like kind of into anime, or hasn't seen the show yet, or is a little bit hesitant, show them this episode because it is super cool as long as you don't think about it too much.
it'll get you hooked.
Yes, but as soon as you start thinking about it a little bit more than surface level, you start to see some holes, which is something that we're going to talk about.
Here we go.
Go watch the episode and then come back, because you're not going to feel the same way about this episode after this conversation.
Yep. So many questions, man.
Okay, so you're back. Great. You've watched the episode. You know what we're talking about. Or we assume you would have watched the episode because you're watching along with the show. Anyway, first of all, number one, remember that it was a sealed bag of chips. So unless Light had like a resealer to close the chip bag up, how did he get the television, which we never saw him buy, but it cost him apparently like $400, into the chip bag, along with a taped piece of the Deathnote on the inside of the chip bag, without anybody knowing? Like, what if somebody else had grabbed that chip bag?
His sister.
What
His
if
sister eats
oh
chip.
my gosh, if his sister
Can you
grabbed the
imagine
chip
his
bag?
sister grabs like, oh, what's this? Oh wow, Cracker Jacks, free TV, dope. I'm like, what?
Another thing, you're sitting there with a bag of snacks right now.
Nah, not gonna fit, man.
Is there any way that you would be able to see the inside of that bag from a
No.
desk with your hand slightly inside?
No. You can't watch and write at the same time. Not gonna happen. Because your hand's gonna block the view.
Finally, if L was watching this whole thing happen, and I can't wait because like there's gonna be people who definitely have answers to this, and they're gonna at me so bad for all this. If L was watching from multiple angles, why did L not see the earbud coming from the chip bag to Light's ear?
And also, wouldn't it like light up the bag? Like there's a TV inside that bag.
Wouldn't it light up the bag?
There will be light coming out of that bag.
That's what I'm saying.
Not all chip bags glow.
Like there's so okay, like and that's something that I'm seeing in this show as we're doing this podcast, is that there are so many cool things that happen in this show and in the manga as well, that like the moment you think about it for more than a minute,
It's like, hold up.
it kind of falls apart.
The scene's great though. The animation's awesome, but then again, when you think about it,
there are whole video essays written just about this one scene.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's cool, and it's phenomenal. Like it's rad, but I did not expect it to be as contrived as it was.
Very. Like, is he eating stale chips because there's a hole in your chip bag?
I don't even know. The point is, at the end of these 4 episodes, I have a whole lot more questions than answers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and so there we are. We've now recapped episodes 5 to 8 of Deathnote. if you enjoy the show and you like what we're doing, leave us a review on Spotify. Leave us a review on your favorite podcast app. Follow the show. We're going to be back next week with another episode of Papercuts, the Death Note recap podcast,
9 to 12?
episodes 9 to 12.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about episodes 9 to 12?
Not yet. I've been holding off from like, you know, when you're watching something, you're like, ooh, I'm gonna keep watching.
It's so hard not to jump ahead.
Yeah, Death Note is pretty good. I don't even remember the ending. And I don't know. I've been thinking, I hope Naomi's not actually dead. I don't know.
I don't remember her coming back.
Okay, that's bad.
So, Ollie, where can people find you on the internet?
Find me on Instagram, exarice_inc. Yeah, that's it.
Fantastic. My name is Scott, aka Walkstars. If you're watching this live on Twitch, then obviously you're here. Hi. So we record every show we do. We stream every show we do on Twitch every Wednesday evening around 6:30, 7 o'clock. We don't have an exact time yet. So if you want to watch this show get made live, you can check out the Twitch stream, interact with us in real time. Normally at this point we would go over chat, so you can interact with us real time as we create the show. Again, we're on all your favorite podcast platforms. The video of the show is going to be up, or is available on the YouTube channel. It's on Walkstars YouTube. That's Walkstars with a Z. I can be found on Instagram at Walkstars with 2 Z's. That's WALKSTARZZ. So yeah, if you want to shoot me a message and chat, you know how to do so. Again, my name is Scott, aka Walkstars. Happy to have Ollie with us. Happy to have Ollie with us every time. And we're going to catch you next week for the next episode of Papercuts, a Death Note recap podcast.
Light should die.
Light should die.
He should die.
Dead.
That kid. All right, see you next week.
Bye now.